how some of our favorite movies had the power to transport us to the time and era of its characters, who often left us feeling patriotic or loved or emotional or inspired. This is exactly the proposed role of art in society. Ancient texts state that art can teach duty to those who are determined. It chastises those who are unruly. It encourages self-control in those who are disciplined and instigates bravery, along with enlightening everyone of the cardinal aims of life. The aims being dharma or righteousness, artha, production of wealth, kama, production of pleasure, and moksha or the eternal bliss. Now, art may broadly be viewed as chronos and topos. Chronos are arts that we experience over a time, like music, dance, theatre, and even movies, where we discover and experience the entire artwork over a period of time. While topos, or that which is spatial, like paintings and sculptures, have the complete piece of art spread over a particular medium of space. To elucidate, here is a painting of The Creation of Adam by Michelangelo. When I present this painting to you, you immediately see it as a complete work which is spread over the screen. But if I were to start singing, which you might not desire too much, you will painfully have to wait till the end to see, or in this case, to hear the complete work. Be it chronos or topos, their principles, that is, the principles of classical arts, are discoveries and can be called the science of the art, whereas the presentation or the physical delineation with the help of various techniques is in modern parlance the technology. We must be mighty proud that India has authored an extensive number of documented technologies, also called Shastras. Yes, Shastras, contrary to popular belief, are not religious texts but compendiums of formalized knowledge on a chosen subject. The word Shastra is from Shasanam, meaning rule or law. It serves a similar purpose as the suffix logi in English. Example, Jiva Shastra, which is the equivalent to biology. Some of the Shastras are Nyaya Shastra, Dharma Shastra, Kama Shastra, Moksha Shastra, Alankara Shastra, Sangeeta Shastra, Natya Shastra, among many, many more. Let us now delve a little deeply into the Natya Shastra. Dating back several centuries, the Natya Shastra is the oldest surviving encyclopedic compendium, or even a pedagogical treatise on Natya, which is the art of aesthetic and dramaturgy. It constitutes of 6,000 shlokas sorted under 36, or in some versions, 37 chapters, propounding a complex and coherent grammar of performance. The text opens with a mythical genesis of its origin. The author, Bharatamuni, switches to a third-person narrative to tell us the myth of Brahma, the progenitor, creating Natya. This was during the period of transition from Satya Yuga to Treta Yuga. This book was to serve as a visual and auditory guide cum instruction manual, which was common to all human beings, who were unfortunately degenerating in values and conduct and were bereft of the access to Vedas, which were guides to a way of life. Now, one may wonder the need of a Shastra, which is ideally a guidebook, to assume the form of a myth. Here, we must break away from the notion of a myth being a legend or a fable or simply a story and understand them to be a mode of exposition of complex theoretical issues. Remember how easy it was to understand and retain theories and even complex concepts when they were explained to us as simple stories. Structured similarly, are a set of 5 question and answers in the first chapter. They are: how did Brahma come to create Natya and the Natya Shastra? For whom was this created? With how many elements? What was the intended scope of this art? And what was the purpose that was to be accomplished? The text reaffirms that no man is the creator of the Natya Veda. It is impersonal or apaurusheya. Etymologically, Veda comes from the root word vid, meaning to know. Natya Shastra is believed to be the 5th or Panchama Veda, since it is an amalgamation of components taken from the 4 primary Vedas. The element of recitation is from Rig Veda, musicality from Sama Veda, the art of emoting from Yajur Veda, and the rasas or the essence of experience is from Atharva Veda. The myth then continues to narrate the occasion of the very first play performed, which was at Indra's Banner Festival. The play was themed on the Devas or the Celestials winning over the Daityas or the Asuras. Though the objective of the play was not to establish superiority of any group, but was simply to bring to light the good and the bad in thoughts and deeds of both groups, the Asuras took offense and started disrupting the festival. Brahma then ordained that Natya be performed only in a protected space at the specially designed Natya Graha. In this part of the chapter, we see the architectural specifics of constructing an ideal playhouse, which are described in great detail. The Natya Shastra intended this safe space to give arts the protection from political, ideological, and other forces of obstruction, and to ensure an autonomous and fearless discussion and presentation. A key element mentioned is that this art could only be performed by those who have learned to control their senses, because only then can they accurately communicate and teach the attractions of virtue and repulsions of evil without bias. Communication or effective communication are prescribed to be of 4 kinds, namely Angika, expressing through limbs; Vachika, expression of speech; Aharya, expressing through makeup, costumes, and ornamentation; and Satvika, the subtle, true emotion. Angika Abhinaya is a technique vocabulary using body limbs. For this, elaborate sets of movements for the primary and auxiliary body limbs are designed. Vachika Abhinaya constitutes the lyrical and musical aspects of poems, songs, and dramas. Aharya include the decoration of the body by means of makeup and costume that creates a visual of the nature of the character that is being portrayed. Finally, Satvika Abhinaya is created out of total concentration and involvement of the performer when the mind and the body are in unison while portraying a particular bhava. While each of these communication methods are capable of transporting the onlooker to a higher realm on its own merit, together they create an experience like none other. Communication of these are carried by a tool called Abhinaya. With a combination of bhavas, which are states of minds, Vibhava, the determinants, Anubhavas, the consequence, and Vyabhichari Bhava, the transitory emotions, the path to attaining Rasa or aesthetic bliss is clearly charted. Bharatamuni elucidates 8 predominant rasas in the 6th chapter of the Natya Shastra. Each of them are designated a presiding deity, a musical note, and also a specific color. Here is the list: Shringara or love, Hasya or laughter, Karuna or compassion, Raudra or fury, Veera or valor, Bhayanaka or terror, disgust or bhivatsa, Adbhuta or wonder. A ninth rasa, being Shanta, was included by later authors to now form the Navarasa. According to Abhinavagupta, who was a Kashmir philosopher and also an authority on the Natya Shastra, rasa is the simplest yet the most bewildering of expression in Sanskrita literature. No doubt, since it is an impression which is created on the minds of the audience using tools of technique. The rasa theory asserts that while entertainment is expected to evoke rasa, which is a sense of experiential bliss, that isn't to be taken as the primary goal. The goal is instead to create a parallel and augmented reality on the onlooker, allowing them to experience a cognitive world which is quite similar to their own, yet that which transports them to discover truth. Truth that they haven't discovered as yet. To illustrate, imagine yourself sitting at a cinema. You are willingly submitting 2 to 3 hours of your time to the augmented reality that the characters are set to create for you. You respond and react to everything that the character goes through. Now, be it your own relatives or friends who are seated beside you, those few moments of experience remain exclusively yours and yours alone. Similarly, at a classical concert, there is utmost freedom for us as the onlooker to infer and interpret the content to our own satisfaction. Though the art is presented to a collective group of people, it is highly individualistic from the perspective of the onlooker. Speaking of films, a majority of them today are plotted around love or Shringara. Do you know that there are 10 kinds of plays that are charted clearly in a text called the Dasha Rupakam? Dasha meaning 10 and Rupakam meaning form of play. It lists the various emotions other than Shringara that can also be used for structuring a plot. In course of describing the 10 forms of play, the author, Dhananjaya, discusses in detail the key elements of drama. This includes types and characters of plots or vastu, the protagonist Neta, along with the appropriate costume and makeup for each of their character, and the predominant emotion or rasa, which is ascribed as the soul of the drama. Now, though we see a stark shift of lifestyle from that era to today, most concepts from such shastras stand relevance till date. Let us now get a glimpse of some concepts that the Natya Shastra explores, and I will allow your imagination to find its usage in our lives today. We find the concepts of Dasha Rupakam in the Natya Shastra, along with the theory of Samskrita parody, musical meters, and language expressions, along with poetry and the art of speech delivery. There is also an elaborate training methodology prescribed for actors. This sprouts from a deep understanding of the structure and nature of the gross and subtle human body. The Natya Shastra also dedicates several chapters to women in performing arts, with an exclusive chapter on female theatre. The final chapter explains the need for a teamwork and the constitution of an ideal troupe. Bharata ends with his comments on the importance of performance arts in the sustenance of values and culture in our society. We can now confidently come to say that the Natya Shastra documents an encyclopedic understanding of the nature of bodies, mind, and matter. By exploring just one such text as the Natya Shastra, we get a whiff of the holistic nature of any Shastra. But it is only when we apply it to a living form of art, like cinema today, we we see how deeply it has been internalized by our society. Just as modern cinema has principles from the Natya Shastra and our everyday handloom has motifs from ancient temples, the wisdom from ancient yore are deeply ingrained in the culture and daily activities of our land. This talk has been an attempt to bring to light the depth and universality of Indic thought modules by exploring one of them. Mind you, we barely managed to run through the index of it. If every of our classical texts are read in the right manner, such connections and practices can be better understood and elucidated. I wish to share a thought I have been having lately. Most educated Western scholars with little knowledge of classical Greek know something about Plato and Aristotle. Then, doesn't it make it our duty to know something about our own Panini, Bhartrhari, Bharata, Kambar, and many of our own great thinkers? For beginners, there is no requirement of knowledge of languages like Sanskritam or Tamil or any of the regional languages, nor do you have to subscribe to a religious thought. All we need to do is to try and understand them, for they are by no means ethnocentric texts. As the torchbearers of such great thought modules, we ought to defossilize these texts, re-evaluate their relevance today, and demonstrate their objective universality, ultimately adding value to the knowledge of who we were and who we are today. This is Aryamba Sriram, a humble student of Indic Studies, signing off. Thank you.